Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next session of From Nothing, Lorna's story. Now, as we begin, where we left off, you had chilled out in your room with Lilith and taken a hit of haze.
Yeah, I did.
Sharing your doses, you only had two. You shared it with Lilith Noish. As you succumbed to the influences of the haze, I need you to make a wisdom saving throw.
Yeah. Okay, I can do that. Wisdom saving throw. Not great.
No, not
That's a
great at all.
10. That's a 10.
Okay. Well, this is going to be an interesting start then.
Nah, okay. Well, I look interesting.
As you feel the intoxicating, euphoric influence take over, you lean back on your bed. You see Lilith leaning back with her hands folded behind her head. And then your perceptions of her warp as though you're looking through a fisheye. And you feel yourself falling asleep. Which isn't so bad. It feels like it would be very comfortable to sleep like this. And darkness takes you.
Oh, boy. Whenever I see these woods, I know it's going to be a good time.
Yeah. You feel as though you've just opened your eyes. You feel as though you just blinked. You're in the middle of something. Something important. You're on the verge of understanding what it is. You know you've been awake for days. The exhaustion makes everything difficult, but you know that if you go to sleep, you'll lose focus on what you're trying to do. As you're making notes and you see all of these scrolls and parchments spread out before you atop this broad, black desk. Black, but made of wood. You remember buying the desk. You remember choosing it, thinking it would be perfect because it was big enough to make all of the enchanting inscriptions you needed to across its broad surface. And you're looking down at them now on the black surface, the slightly blue scratchings that glow with magic that you've infused within it. You don't remember making those scratches, but you also vividly remember carving them meticulously, taking hours upon hours to get them just right. And every time you fucked up, having to find the sawdust and mend it back into place and starting over. It's been months of carving. Months of getting this sigil to look exactly how it needs to look. Every angle, every geometric shape being perfect. Because you know if you get it wrong, well, you can't get it wrong. Or that will be the end. As you loom over this arcane sigil, so vast and stretching across this desk, it's well over 6 feet across. A 3-foot diameter sigil, you know. Big enough for an entire person, one of your height, to lay across. As you look at the sigil and as you look at your notes that are next to you, there is a forceful pounding at the door. But you know that if you answer the door right now, the sigil won't work. You can't break focus. What do you do?
I keep working. But I'm gonna. How close is the knocking?
It's across the room from you. Maybe 25 feet away. At the
So
heavy metal door.
I would keep working, but I would say, what is it?
There is a moment's pause, and then you hear, I hate to interrupt you, ma'am, but There are some very forceful officials out here. They're asking questions. What do we say?
Whatever you need to do to keep them at bay for just a little bit longer.
Oh, all right, we'll do our best. And you hear the sounds of heavy footsteps leaving.
Oh boy.
As you focus on this sigil, as you continue lining the engraving with the fine banisite powder, pressing it down into each crack until it seems to collect itself into solid form. A trick you no longer remember how to do, but you see yourself doing it. The feeling of electricity spurting through your fingertips, filling the powder with energy, turning it to almost a blue glass. You're 3/4 of the way done. The sigil glows with energy. It is beautiful. Beautiful and a relic of all the work that you've put into the desk. You look up. You messed up.
No.
The banisite cracks underneath your fingertips. You feel shards of it enter your fingers. You know you'll be dealing with that pain for the rest of the month. And you feel this frustration take over you. Magic builds underneath your fingertips as the anger washes out the cold, calculating, stoic face that you normally wear. There's another pounding at the door.
What?
Lorna! We're here with a warrant!
Oh boy.
She doesn't respond. She is fixated on fixing her mistake before it's too late.
Lorna, open the door, we'll break it in! You have to the count of 5. 1! And you can hear footsteps coming from outside. 2! There is the sound of scratching, as if they are placing something against the door. 3! Don't make us do this, Palerna. You can come peacefully.
I've never done anything peaceful in my life.
4. You heard it, boys. 5! There is a resounding as the door is thrust inward. While at the same time, the door collapses in on itself with the magical booby trap that you yourself placed. You remembered setting that defensive ward a week ago. You're only paranoid until you're proven correct. As the explosion of necrotic energy fills the corridor and you hear the sounds of pained individuals, you can't help but feel like it's more life force for the Sacrarium. You blink again. It is maybe 3 in the morning. Maybe 4. You are awake in your bed. You feel a cold sweat. You feel the trace of frustration as all of that work, months of work, just went down the hole because you were distracted, as you had instructed them not to allow that to happen. And as that anger courses through you, you suddenly hear, well, that was just as vivid as the first time. I apologize. And you feel those emotions recede.
Did I just see my birthday?
Your birthday? No.
That was the day you died.
No.
One of them, anyways. No?
No.
Tell me
No.
I'm wrong.
You're wrong. I remember
What did
that
I
day
see?
vividly. That was the
What did I
day.
see?
That was the day I had to flee Silver's Reach.
Silver's Reach. Oh,
Mhm.
man. I suppose you've fled a lot of places.
Yes.
And you were Polarna back then.
Yes. Yes, I was.
Couldn't have been more than 50 some years ago then.
I don't remember, honestly. The years and days are so complicated.
Well, that was when you last went by Polarna.
Mm-hmm.
You were traded from Northern Aurelia to Ceres.
Ah, yes, the seventh trellis.
Yes, you're still familiar with them. I'm still familiar with them. They're still looking for us.
Fantastic. Maybe we'll
Is
see
it?
some familiar faces.
I suppose that does raise the question. Do they know who they're looking for?
I don't know. How should I know?
How much of your life did Remus know?
That's a good question. I can only imagine how much he managed to derive. He was not stupid. I never truly trusted him, but I never truly trusted anyone since I began this journey. Would you kindly not mention her? I have difficulty separating what I don't want to remember from what I do. There is
Why
no
would you?
barrier. I can't keep painful memories at bay.
Why would you want to forget her?
You've not truly felt pain, Lorna.
No. Not yet.
You could not understand.
But she died for you.
No, she died because of me.
I don't see the difference.
I do. One of them is guilt, the other is gratitude, and I certainly don't feel grateful.
But you have the capacity for guilt, which is news to me.
Of course I do. As I've said before, I'm not a monster.
Yeah, well, your past actions make that hard to...
There are reasons behind everything, and while I may not remember them, I'd like to believe perhaps some benefit of the doubt is in order.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm still weighing your pros and cons and your life choices.
They are
It's
the
yet to
same
be
as
determined.
yours, Lorna. You and I are cut from the same cloth, quite literally.
Quite literally.
You find the practical use of others, frequently, but you also develop connections for them. You can be as analytical and separated as you like, but it's still the truth. I am not above empathy, and neither are you.
No. Right?
So please don't waste my time with telling me how evil I am.
I didn't say that word.
Mm-hmm. I'm in here, too, you know.
I have a question.
I'm sure you do.
Well, I have a lot of questions, but this one's for you. In the sense that you didn't like it when I called you Atlantis.
No, I still don't.
I'm not going to. I wanted to know what to call you for now. Because you didn't like Polarna, and you didn't like Notlina either.
Why not just hey you?
I don't know, that feels weird.
Well, I don't remember my true name, and you don't either, so you might as well come up with another name for me.
Oh, okay, I have an idea.
She's gonna pull the book, her old journal from her bag. That's probably propped up against her bed.
Okay.
And she's going to trace the cover. And there, embossed in the leather, is a flower. I think the imagery or the symbolism is fitting. So how about Lily?
That'll do.
Okay. The one who wrote this book. The one who's laid on the fresh turned earth of a grave.
Lily. Well, it is poetic, I suppose.
Inoffensive.
Yes.
All encompassing, because Atlantis was someone, and Palermo was someone, and Nalina was someone, and whoever you were 500 years ago or 600 years ago. Everybody who isn't me.
I was someone who's broken.
You were then?
I still am. Look at my current situation.
Maybe it just our circumstance means the gods have a sense of humor.
Maybe. Or they enjoyed playing pin the tail on the donkey with souls and tethered me to you.
Well, if you're going to get tethered to somebody, it might as well be your failure.
Like a permanent reminder. Was there anything else?
I mean, it was your memory that woke me up, so...
I could not hold it back.
I don't mind. I mean, I do, and I don't. I would like to know more. I know it's painful for you, but...
I warn you, some of these memories broke me.
You just don't know which ones.
I have no idea.
Until it's too late. I actually do have one question. You probably won't remember, but that thing, the creature, that dark monster, what was that? Do you remember?
It was a terrible creature of another plane. They have been known to appear in the prime material every 100 years or so. They hunger for fear. They feed upon suffering. A common nomenclature for them is night walkers.
Yeah, that feels pretty apt.
Mm-hmm.
Were you there looking for it? Was it looking for you?
We were trying to find where it had stepped through.
The rift, the hole.
Yes, we were trying to isolate the ley line upon which it had found its way across into our world. Because if you manage to close the doorway, any creature not of this plane, whose connection is severed, will wither and die.
You wanted to kill it.
Very much so.
Feels very altruistic.
I did mention I am not a monster, Lorna. I do things for the benefit of others every once in a while. Like this. I could have told you to shut the fuck up when you asked me that question, but...
You appreciate that you didn't.
I find I don't much have a filter anymore.
Do you think you ever found it?
The rift?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember.
That's what I thought you'd say. Well, Tabernacle might know about this.
Yes, he might.
I thought that name might sound familiar to you.
A self-righteous cock, but yes.
He's my teacher now, you know.
Then I guess I should appreciate his aptitude for the arcane arts.
It feels a little ironic.
Doesn't it?
Will he be able to hear you in here?
Has he heard me yet?
No, but I've only had you for a day.
To be honest, I don't understand the mechanics of this situation. I feel as though I am communicating with you telepathically from my forest. But...
You can see yourself standing there?
yes.
Oh.
I cannot perceive what you perceive.
You can't see.
I see this strange section of Shadowfell Woods. That's what I see.
I thought you could see what I could see as well.
No.
Huh.
Maybe every once in a while I get a glimpse, as if something moving in my peripheral, but no, I am blind to your world.
Lorna will look over
And think, I feel like Lilith was with me at one point.
She's not in the room anymore.
Oh, she bailed. Was I just left where I lay?
Mm-hmm.
Damn. Oh. Did you ever do drugs?
Some.
I know you experimented with lacing things with magic for others to take. I know you did that a lot.
I also did that to myself.
Why would you have to do it to yourself?
I don't remember the reasoning. I remember the effect was a broadening of the mind.
I remember in the book and from my own research with haze that to do so is kind of like a way of forcing the will of a creature to accept what they're ingesting.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine why you need to do that for yourself. You could just willingly accept its effects.
You might be surprised. Even if you are willing, the body's defenses are not always.
Like self-defense?
Like the immune system.
Okay.
I suppose that makes sense.
Unfortunately, I don't remember much of what you are referring to.
She has the book in her hand, so she's gonna page to it. To the portions that she remembers has those specific notes in them.
I do recall, as you pull the book open to those pages, she says, there were some tricky spells that needed to be wrought in order to solve something. I can't remember what it was. We needed to sway the minds of some powerful individuals. To do so, they needed to be convinced by their own lessons, and we... well... in particular, I remember influencing the captain of the guard to stay off our back.
You know whenabouts?
No.
That could have been any timeline, to be fair. Can you imagine that, generally speaking, guards didn't like what you were doing?
I do remember Remus was helping me.
Oh. Do you... What I learned from Remus, not from his mouth, but from his hand, was that what finally did you in was a paladin.
Hmm.
Do you remember that?
Do I remember the man who struck me down? No. It's all just black.
She's gonna flip to the back of the book where Remus's pages are.
This was what told me everything, or at least started to tell me everything. These pages are like his love letter to you.
Mm-hmm. I admit this is a little uncomfortable through your eyes.
Yeah, you think.
Oh dear. Well, I don't blame you for running.
Oh, he had to have had some idea what was going on. He obviously knew some aspects of your ability to persevere, because he thought you'd done it again.
Yes. He did know
But
that.
he'd never seen it done before, so he didn't know that it went wrong.
It's not right. What he thought. It's not... Something doesn't add up. A memory of mine and what you've written here is not the same.
What do you mean?
He wasn't... So the clone spell, which is what is described here as what has created you, does not match to what my memories are of incanting the spell. I wish I could put my finger on it.
What, his description of what happened, or
No,
doesn't match?
There was no other. There was no... This is bizarre. And she is quiet for a long moment. As you hear her humming, I'm not like actually humming, but like thinking.
Hmm.
One moment here.
She's actually humming Camptown Races.
Yes, got it in one.
Doo-da, doo-da.
Okay, hold on a second here. Rolling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I need to check my notes.
That's fine. This is a wicked web.
Yes, hold on. All right, hold on a second. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. No. This is wrong. This is wrong. What Remus has written here is incorrect. He did not understand the spell. It was not clone. There was no spare in any other instance of my spell. What did he do?
He did something?
I don't know. I'm frustrated. I can't remember.
Well, can I help? How can I help?
Go through my notes. Go back through the journal.
She does. She starts flipping back to Lily's notes.
go back to my first description of the spells that I used to create my second lives.
Okay. She does.
As you read it... damn it all. This isn't helping. I was too cryptic.
Like writing in a language you've forgotten.
When you get a chance, when you get to Tabernac's library, see if you can find the clone spell and see if it matches these inscriptions, because I don't think it will. I did not cast the clone spell. It's not the same. It's close.
You think that you altered it in some way to make it more personal?
I don't remember. I must have, because this is not... right.
Okay. No, you weren't with me at that point. When I was at the Arcanium with Hushen, and I was going through our stitched compendium of other clone spells. Do you remember that?
Yes.
There are quite a few by your hand. Many of your lives were in there. Do you think they were different from the other clones, but written by people who weren't you? That I just couldn't recognize?
It could be.
I wish I had that book still. All of the ones that you wrote matched, though.
Well, it would make sense. Whether it be a
wrote
clone
them.
spell or a resurrection or any other thing that involves the soul, it creates a soul print.
Mm-hmm. Whoever compiled that book together, though, believed it functioned the same way as the others in there, not written by you.
I can't speak as to what they thought.
It's bizarre that they even had elements of your previous books. Baffling, even. I have no idea how or why they came together like that, but they did, and it helped me get deeper. What time do I think it is?
Like 4 in the morning.
Well, Tabernacle has known me going into the library at all hours, and she'll push her.
You are
herself
also
up on the
aware
bed.
that it is Saturday.
Uh-huh.
There are no classes on Saturday.
Uh-huh. So there will be no people.
That's all that you needed that I was saying to you right now.
Okay, yeah. Well, she's still gonna go now anyways.
Okay, so you get up.
Mm-hmm.
You do hit the long rest button because you fell asleep at like 7.
Are my temporary hit points still there from dinner?
Yep.
Do I look like a mess
Yep.
as I pass? Oh, can I just quickly try to fix that?
No, you're
Look at
not
my-
allowed to.
I'm gonna like
Yes,
look
do whatever you
specifically
want.
at my gums in the mirror.
1 dose of haze does not
Oh, thank God.
stain your gums.
She was worried about that.
There is a little bit of the residue left, but you just kind of wipe it away and it's gone.
Hmm.
Your mouth tastes a little bit like hay.
I'm not gonna do that again. And then after she pauses, realizes that Lilith had left while she was sleeping at some point. She's gonna just check her belongings.
She didn't take anything?
Okay. At least she didn't take advantage of whatever. Okay. She's gonna go to Tabernacles. At 4 in
Okay.
the morning. Tabernacles is gonna be like, what is with this bitch?
At 4 in the morning, you head over to Tabernacle's classroom. On the way, you are passing down the hall, and you see that there are a number of armored golems that patrol the halls. They seem to ignore you, unless you address them, but they march, and you see each one is armed with a very imposing-looking halberd.
Don't fuck with those guys.
No, that would be a bad idea. As you enter Tabernacle's classroom, it is quiet. You gently hear the sound of parchment shuffling from across the room.
Mm-hmm.
As the door closes, oh, are you being sneaky?
Oh, well, if I hear part of me, yeah.
Roll stealth.
Okay. Stealth. I suck at everything I do. That's a 2.
You heard the parchment shuffle, and you had already swung the door a little bit too hard, and
Yeah.
so you reach back to catch it, and it,
Oh,
and you hear, "Ah, who goes there? So early in the day."
it's me, sir.
Early in the morning on a day off. I suspect you are here to make up for your lack of focus yesterday.
It's certainly a huge motivator.
Mm-hmm. And then you hear him return to what he was doing.
But I know he keeps his necromantic books typically close to the chest.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she's gonna just take a deep breath and head towards his stage.
Okay. As you climb down the stairs, you see Tabernac has a number of books open in front of him as he is writing notes with one mage hand and turning a sheet with another mage hand. He looks up at you and says, "Well, good morning, Lorna.
Morning. I'm surprised to see you up.
I am up at odd hours.
Me too, apparently.
Time is a little different in Terracona, which is when I typically keep the clock. So, how may I help you?"
I did some research from your more private or more careful collection of tomes of the necromantic variety, and I would like to continue to do so.
Very well. Do be careful.
Of course.
And he kind of gestures to the door that is open, revealing the large closet of more and more books.
I'll scurry that way.
Okay.
She didn't ask.
What you looking for?
I'm looking for Lily told me clone spell, so that's what she's looking for.
Roll me
See if
investigation.
there's a difference.
You are looking for something specific, so you don't need to roll too high, but I do need a D100.
14.
Okay.
D100. Oop. 91.
With a 91, you find a book of spell scrolls. And as you pull it down, the spell scroll for clone is there in the book.
Book, yeah. Okay, so she's gonna place that open on the right page, and she's gonna place Lily's notes down. And she's gonna be like, okay, I've got it.
And compare them.
I will. She does.
You look at the spell scroll describing clone, and you look at the sigil inscribed into the journal. It is hard to focus. This spell is high above your level. You have not had the training to understand the arcane shapes and lettering to make this spell scroll. And as you look at it, it's almost as if you're getting a headache from looking at an illusion. I need you to roll a intelligence saving throw.
Fuck.
You feel this pain in your head. You are not able to compare them. And Atlantis and Lily in your head, you hear her say, "Oh, you poor student. You certainly need so much more training. All right."
I'm at the very beginning of my journey.
Sure, close the book. You're going to hurt yourself.
I shut the book.
This will have to wait.
There has to be another way.
If you cannot read the spell, there is no way to identify the minute differences.
Do you think Tabernacle? No.
Are you willing to show him my journal?
Lorna hesitates. Maybe not Tabernacle then.
Maybe not.
Maybe someone. There's gotta be someone.
Where else can you find a clone spell? For I'm fairly certain if you try to take this out of the classroom...
He'll eat me like a sardine.
Perhaps someplace you could purchase a powerful spell.
God, I don't even want to know how much this would cost.
Oh, I'd imagine maybe 100,000 gold.
I don't have that in my pocket, Lily.
I didn't expect you did. You asked.
That's fair. I'm sorry. The Arcanium. Fuck.
No, I don't believe the Arcanium would have it. They do not possess consumables, as it were. If you were to find
They had the records.
That's
the
different.
ones that I found. Couldn't use those, right?
No. You know, as a beginning wizard, the instant you inscribe a spell onto parchment, with use of it actually being the spell, it holds magical power.
Blank check.
Yes, that would not be in the Arcanium. Hushen would never allow something of magical power to be accessed by just anyone, not without his permission.
Right. So it's either buy one, or there's got to be someone so altruistic, but I don't know anyone like that. I guess I'll just come back later. God, that pains me.
I don't have any other answers for you.
I know. Oh, okay, hold on. Well, this is a problem for another day. She's going to put the spellbook back. But she is going to go back out to where Tabernac is.
Did you find what you were looking for?
Yes and no. Yes, I did. It was well above what I'm able to do.
I think I felt the reverberations of your mental anguish from here.
I'm disappointed that I'm not more advanced.
There is a reason why these spells are, well, Magos gatekeeps by those not powerful enough to wield them yet. Otherwise, you would expend your soul attempting to cast them.
Yeah, that is a hefty price to pay for ambition.
Yes, it is. And Tabernac looks over his shoulder at you and says, what else was there? Because clearly there's something.
A question. I've recently come to the knowledge of the existence of a creature called a Nightwalker.
Ah, stuff of nightmares, that is. How did you come... Well, there are stories everywhere. I guess I should worry. Why has this come to your attention in a means that you wish to pursue knowledge about them?
Well, you said it was important to familiarize ourselves with the planes and what's in them.
Yes, I did.
I know that those creatures walk through tears. I don't know where from, though.
The Nightwalker is typically native to, well, they originally source from the negative energy plane.
Which you said was worse than Shadowfell.
Yes. They can be native to the plane of shadow, the Shadowfell, but it is rare. It is not possible for mortals such as yourself to survive on the negative energy plane. As soon as one of your kind enters there, they are drained of life. Rapidly. That is not the case with the plane of shadow. Once one enters the Shadowfell, there is a draining effect, one that saps the life force of all who enter and are living, but it is much slower and it is resistible. The sort of thing that you can develop a constitution for, if you're prepared.
Okay, that kind of crops up a new question. I'm going to ask before I forget it. What are the ramifications of spending, say, years in the Shadowfell?
Well,
what could that do to a person?
It depends. For the most part, if one who is not mentally and physically prepared to spend any time in the Shadowfell, they will, well, there's no easy way to say it, kill themselves.
What if they couldn't?
If they couldn't, then that is up to Tysus, I imagine.
Tysus?
The Shepherd of Death. The god who handles lost souls. The sort of individual who spends most of his time in the Astral Sea and the Plane of Shadow, shepherding those off to the afterlife.
But it wouldn't have very good effects on you, mentally, spiritually.
Well, if you're already dead, it's different. So, the Shadowfell is a place that drains life. Always. It is a parallel to our own plane. Dark, grey, lacking of color and happiness. But if one is already dead, or if you are a spirit, or a revenant, or a ghost even, and you find yourself on the plane of shadow, it would be harmless to you. It would seem a little dreary, but I imagine your lack of life would find that unimportant.
What if you were kind of in a weird middle between alive and dead?
Lorna, we once again find ourselves in the situation where I need to ask why you are asking these questions. Because this is very specific.
I know.
And please save me the trouble of trying to weasel the truth out of you. It is my day off, and believe it or not, I am not of unlimited patience.
As she's kind of hawing over what to say to him, she realizes that she's pressed a little too far, and she frantically thinks to Lily, what should I say?
You hear Tabernacle says, the truth. And Lily says, oh, well, you've gotten on his nerves. That's fantastic.
No, Lily, this is bad. Oh, fuck. She finally sighs and she says, I've encountered an entity. I'm not sure it's alive and I'm not sure it's dead. I was wondering what the effects of the Shadowfell would have on them.
Well, if they are not of corporeal form, or if they are not truly alive and not truly dead, I imagine the Shadowfell's negative energy would not really affect them.
It wouldn't drive them crazy or make them unwilling to go on.
Well, it doesn't really drive anyone crazy. It just makes them extremely depressed.
My cat is bothering me. So she'll say, so as far as Nightwalkers go, do you remember specific instances of Nightwalkers traveling the prime material plane?
There have been a number of sightings. There have been evidence of Nightwalkers attacking the city of Kota City, the capital of KO.
Nightwalkers? As in
yes,
multiple? Oh
a
my
group
god.
of 3.
They could work together. That's terrifying.
Of course they can. They are hell-bent on the destruction of mortals and their life force. And with enemies with a common goal, what would stop them from grouping together to kill millions?
And I'm assuming they didn't succeed.
No, they were bested. From what I recall, they were destroyed by a group of adventurers known as the Red Cravens.
The Red Cravens?
Yes. This was, I think, 400 years ago.
Okay. There's a specific incident with the Nightwalker that I stumbled across. It was about 500, maybe almost 600 years ago in Ceres.
Hmm.
I was just wondering how it ended, if anyone knows.
Well, if I believe I have my timeline correct. About a little over 500 years ago was a particularly tumultuous time for Ceres during the War of the Dead.
Mm-hmm.
There was some, over that 100-year span, there were a record number of tear-throughs. What with necromancers playing with the ley lines to the Shadowfell, they were pulling corpse collectors into the prime material plane. And when you pull so many entities across the barriers between worlds, even if it were for a century-long bout of conflict, the curtains between realms becomes thin.
Mm.
I do remember several instances of Nightwalkers appearing. I don't remember the specifics, as I'm not a historian onto Ceres. But a Nightwalker attacking Silver's Reach and marring the Titan Space Canyon is not one you ever ignore.
I think that's what I was talking about.
There was one Nightwalker that was particularly famous for being responsible. It drained 3 towns of all their life. The deaths of about 50,000 individuals, if I remember.
Wow. How was it stopped?
I don't know.
I see.
These are the sorts of things that you read about. I did not witness it for myself.
Right. You wouldn't happen to have a book on that, would you?
Old news, maybe not, but there might be some researcher's report buried in here somewhere if you want to look.
I'd like to try. There was a specific, I don't really know what she was.
Frankly, the Arcanium would be a better place to find Nisterine events specific to, locations, but we don't have one close at hand.
No, and getting there's a huge pain for people who can't fly.
It's a pain for those of us who can, as well.
Is it?
All sorts of regulations for airspace and such.
I didn't know that.
I didn't either until a few years ago. I tried to fly into Augur City and some very upset guardsmen flew up to meet me.
Okay, if I ever turn into a dragon, I'll remember that is a thing that now I need to remember.
Do so, I think.
I need to go back to the Arcanium, but I don't want to. She grumbles to herself.
Well, I do believe you heading off to the Arcanium would be a small breach of your protocol as a student here, as I do need you on hand, at least within the city.
Right. Yeah, I'm not going back anytime soon. I have to stick around. I guess that's the end of my questions that I'm able to wrestle answers from.
Before you leave, I do have a question for you.
Lorna Blank's like, I don't think he's ever directly asked me for something. Okay, yeah, sure. What is it?
I realize as you study here in my class, you've discovered all sorts of things about the world around you. But how did you hear about Nightwalkers?
Nightmare.
You had a nightmare about Nightwalkers.
I did. I saw this creature and it was horrible, and I looked into what I saw, the description of the thing, and it matched the Nightwalker, so...
Terrifying.
It was. It's something that kind of burns itself on the back of your eyelids.
Are you, partial to a divine, Lorna?
Well, I ran across the avatar of Magos on my way back from Mago City, so that was pretty cool.
I find that believable, as he does like to show off a little bit to young wizards and sorcerers.
No, that was cool. I actually gave him a token because I felt like that was the right thing to do. I gave him my arcane focus when I saw him.
A worthy token.
And I had to buy a new one because oops.
Right.
Sorry, what did you ask? If I was partial to it.
Because evidence of a Nightwalker, without having heard of one before, is often a clue that one is arriving soon.
Oh. You don't think that was...
A vision? It could have been.
It just appears to random people?
Well, typically they do appear to those who follow a divine. Clerics, paladins, anybody
Right.
that finds themselves
Would want to stop one. Makes sense.
sanctimonious, yes.
Mhm.
Well, it doesn't matter who you are. A Nightwalker needs to be stopped. There is no working with one. Even the necromancers of the followers of the star would not permit a Nightwalker to remain alive.
Right, it doesn't care about their motives. It would silence them the same way it would a good person.
Yes. A creature of such destruction cannot be allowed to remain on the prime material any longer than it is necessary.
I see. Should I tell someone?
You've told someone.
You. Right. I had a nightmare about a Nightwalker.
I will perform some divinations.
Okay. You don't think one would just come out of the forest, do you?
Not here, no. The veil is too strong here. But there are many places in this world for a Nightwalker to appear. And if you are not native to this particular area, I didn't think so. It is possible for one to be from across the water. Ceres has always been known to be a little bit close to the Shadowfell, and if a Nightwalker was to appear anywhere in this day and age, I would expect it to be in Ceres.
All right. Well, I hope it was just a bad dream.
I hope so too.
I will do my catching up with my spells. Sorry, with
It's
my
your
reading.
day off, Lorna. Go do something fun. All work will drive you insane. Or me insane. I'm not sure which.
Okay.
It is an order.
Oh, well then I must.
Yes, that is the nature of an order.
Okay, she'll laugh awkwardly and bow a little bit and say, "Okay, I'm off to do what you told me to do."
Perhaps go get some sleep.
I've had plenty of sleep.
Tabernacle looks
She's-
up at the stained glass window and sees like the gray early pre-dawn, and he says, I doubt it. Actually, you know what? Here, come here.
Oh gosh.
And he points with one claw to the couch, and he says, sit down.
Okay, she does, but looks concerned.
Do you trust me, Lorna?
I do.
Good. Sleep. And he casts sleep on you.
That douche.
Hold on. I have to roll some dice.
There's no way he couldn't. Like, I have 16 hit points.
Dude, oh yeah, okay.
I'm out like a baby, just curled up on his couch.
Yep. I rolled like 31. You
Jesus. Sleep is a good spell when you're fighting low level or low hit point.
Yeah. However, you are not plagued by nightmares. You sleep as though you are atop a cloud. It is comfortable, and it isn't until you feel a gentle nudge that you are awoken.
What?
It is maybe 11 in the morning, and Tabernacle says, "Good morning."
Can I learn that?
Yes, you can.
I would love to learn
On Monday.
that. Right, he told me not to be for work.
Yes.
Okay, but can you put like a bookmark in that? Because I don't want to forget that I want to learn that, because that was incredibly useful. Can I do that to myself?
Sleep? Yes, of course you can.
That's amazing. Okay, thank you. She'll get up feeling more refreshed than she has in a long time.
Off you go, Lorna.
She'll scurry off.
Okay. You are, well, you feel well rested.
Mm-hmm.
And as you enter the Merry Guard proper, what do you do?
That's a good fucking question.
As it's your day off.
It is. I'm really looking forward to that visit.
Okay.
So,
Are you saying you'd like to fast forward?
maybe. Well, she can't research the clone spell because
She fucked it up, yeah.
I didn't fuck it up.
She
Fuck
failed the
you.
end save. She can't read
You know,
it.
it was too much for her at that time and at her current level. So,
You
other
can
than
try
waiting,
again when you level up.
yeah, other than waiting for Maxwell's information on the Seventh Trellis or Elise's information on her past identities.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
So I'm just making sure there's nothing else Lorna wants to do
Mm-mm.
in the meantime. Okay. Okay. Remind me how many days it is until the Master's visit?
It was a week on the day she took drugs, so the next morning would have been 6 days.
Okay. So it's Saturday again.
Yay!
All right. Roll me just a straight intelligence check for how the week went.
Her studies and such. Come on. Okay. I'm happy with that.
You studied fairly well focused throughout the whole week. You didn't have too many conversations with Lily. For the most part, it seems as though she's resting. With the occasional snarky comment as to how you handle things with Chier or Anscombe. However, on the Saturday following, it is about maybe 8 in the morning. You've just gotten back from breakfast and you were getting ready when there is a knock on your door.
I would go to the door.
Standing there is Lilith.
Uh-huh.
She looks tired. She looks like she actually looks exhausted, like she's been training maybe really hard this week. And as she looks at you, she says, "She's coming in today. You ready?"
Yeah, I actually feel pretty good. She's gonna just give Lilith a look of concern. How are you feeling?
Illarad put me through the ringer. I'm fine.
Right.
Let's get down to the docks.
Of course.
Did you have something?
I could give you a little pick-me-up.
Yeah?
Yeah, I haven't actually tried the spell. She's wondering if she can cast False Life on Lilith. Let's give her
Okay.
a little more pink to her cheeks.
Okay. Yeah, you can cast False Life on her. But she's like eyeing you suspiciously and she says, You haven't tried it, and you're going to try it first on me?
Oh, don't worry about it. We're sisters in peril together.
We're associates.
That's what I said. And she's gonna cast the spell.
Okay, there's no save or anything like that, so she can't resist it. You give her an extra, I think it's 5 hit points in temporary?
Oh, where is it? False life, false life, false life. There she is. 1d4 plus 4.
Roll it.
3.
Okay.
Spruce her right up.
You provide Lilith with more hit points. You also notice Lilith is wearing different armor than she normally wears. It's a new suit. It looks like it's made of almost chrome-like mirrored scales.
You look nice.
Thanks. Second made it for me.
Oh, she's the blacksmith that I got her name wrong the first time I met, and I haven't met her up since.
Well, I work with her a lot, and she hooked me up.
She looks down at herself like, oh, I don't. Maybe I should dress up a little bit nicer. Give me 1 second. And she's going to spruce herself up just a bit more.
Lilith starts
her.
smoking.
Yeah,
waiting for you.
Just leaning against her door. She adds a little more, like she would be preparing for an audience with someone noble if she were
Okay.
back home. Okay, now let's go. I look half as good as you, so I'm satisfied.
You wish. Let's move. And Lilith turns and heads down the hallway.
Okay, Requiem will be Snakequiem.
Okay. He is happily a belt. And as you make your way down the corridor, you see Persh at the front desk, head down in paperwork. Lilith walks past him and out the front door into Ferrum proper.
I follow her suit.
Okay. As you head out of the Merry Garden down towards the docks, I do require a D8, please.
Boop. An 8.
Roll me a D100.
Okay. 99.
Okay.
Intense.
Hold on. 99, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty strong.
Roll me a D20.
Okay. Natural 20. Uh-oh. I don't like
Okay.
that look. Or I do, I'm not sure which.
Hold on.
Really cool happens, right?
You see in an alley as you're making your way, your attention, your peripheral vision catches a vendor, just an individual. No one else seems to even notice them. There is something otherworldly about this vendor. They almost look too attractive, as if their face is symmetrical. And as you look at them, they look at you, and they say, "Hello there. You look the sort to be out for unusual wares and goods of the magic variety."
You are 100% correct.
Lilith looks at you, and she says, "Who are you talking to?"
Oh. Give me 1 second, Lilith.
All right.
I'm 100% in the market for something like that.
That's good to hear. It looks to me like you might be a wizard.
I am.
It's the books and the keen eyes, I can always tell. I have just the thing for one such as you. And the vendor, this uncanny individual, reaches beneath the cart, and they set this large tome on the desktop of their vendor, their cart. And then the other looks at you and they say, "How much do you know about old magic?"
I'm still learning.
Well, at first glance, this book may appear to be empty. And as they open it up, it is empty by all means. And then when they close it, you see the cover. Roll me an Arcana check. And then I also need to know what languages you speak.
God damn it. 16. And Common, Draconic, Elvish, and Infernal.
In Draconic,
Yes.
you see written on the cover of this book, "The Benellicilian's Unwritten Compendium of Magica."
I know them,
Mm-hmm.
she says.
Oh, and the other says, "Oh, do ya?"
I've read a bit from one of the Benellicilians. Not a lot, but plain walkers.
Yes. Well, as they are researchers, but also spellbenders themselves, they've created some of these. And this, one of their original creations, and she pushes it towards you, is a Benellicilian spellbook.
One of their spellbooks.
Well, could be one of yours.
How much?
For you?
Bat my eyes. Because I only have 75 gold in my pocket. I'm scared.
What's your name, pretty?
It's Lorna.
Lorna.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for any aspiring student of the Marigard Academy, one who may do great things in the future, I am willing to part with this unique, powerful spellbook for the low price of 1,000 gold.
Oh, dear gods. Do you trade in souls? He says, half jokingly.
No?
Okay, that's pretty much all I have. I would even come close.
Well, if you happen to save up the money, I'll still be here.
Really?
Of course.
Right here.
Well, maybe not in this exact spot, but around.
1,000 gold pieces.
1,000 gold pieces, and this book is all yours.
Do you take, like, holds? Like, you'll put this aside?
Well, at the moment, this is the only item I'm selling.
Got it. I'll work fast.
That may be best.
Can I just take a peek?
Of course you can.
I want to see what kind of spells there are in it.
So
If I
there
can.
are a number of spells in it, but you do notice the front of the book seems to provide an unusual and unique ability. Once per turn, with a concentration check, you are able to concentrate on 2 spells at once.
Bruh. Yeah, I need this spell book. Does it say which Benellicilian wrote it?
No, it just says the Benellicilian Compendium of Unwritten Magic.
Okay, I'll be back for this as quickly as I can.
I look forward to seeing you.
Oh, sorry, what's your name?
Gothan.
Gothan.
Yes.
A pleasure.
It has been.
Oh, she'll look it back to Lilith, who's probably just like...
Lilith is staring at you like you've lost your fucking mind.
Okay, we can go now.
What the fuck was that?
There's a person right there.
No, there isn't.
I'm not fucking with you. There's straight up someone right there.
You just stood there and talked to a wall for about 30 seconds.
No, there was a... It's fine, let's go.
Dear Jesus Christ.
I
Are
put
you...
I put a hold on for a magical item.
Sure,
Really
of course. I bet
about-
you did. Let's
I
just
did,
move.
Lilith. Probably don't even know about the Benellicilians.
The Benediminians? What? What did you just say?
I said
You
he
are
probably
actually
never
speaking
even-
nonsense.
He's probably never even heard of Benelicilians.
What are they?
That's fine, whatever. Keep going to the dock.
Lilith is like smoking and looking at you like you've lost your fucking marbles. And as you're making your way down to the docks, she says, "If she asks, I'm saying you're out your fucking mind."
She won't ask. She knows that.
What?
She can look in on us. She knows. She knows us. Well, she can't look in on me. And she'll like flash her amulet, but I'm sure she has her ways.
Why is that?
Why's what?
Why can't she look? What do you mean? What does that necklace do?
It prevents people from looking in on me.
Where do I get one?
Any magic shop. I'm sure the Griffin's bag probably has one, but it's like 200 gold pieces, something like that. I know. It took me like weeks to save up for it.
All right.
Ooh, yeah. She wasn't happy when I put it on, though.
What? Okay, I'd like to keep my head, so never mind.
Yeah, well, I mean, she let me keep it. Just
Did she?
saying. Yeah, well, she contacted me and she was like, "That was stupid, and you're stupid," and I was like, "I'm sorry, but you know, I'm still alive, aren't I?"
For now.
Yeah. Believe it or not, Lilith, there are things out there scarier than her.
Name one.
Nightwalkers.
What are they?
She'll just smile.
What are they?
Oh, you don't know?
I will actually pile drive you, Lorna.
Sorry, I'm having fun. They're like nightmare creatures from the negative energy plane. They're terrible. Suck your soul right out.
And what are the odds that we're going to walk into one?
Higher than you think.
As high as walking into her, which is 100% right now?
That's true. Maybe I should... She'll kind of settle down. Try to humble herself a little bit.
Yeah.
Internally.
As the two of you make your way down towards the docks, it is not a far walk, and after your encounter, you are already at the south docks when you realize you don't know what boat she's coming in on. You basically are just waiting for something to happen.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure she'll, you know, we'll just be here, and she'll be like, "Aha, there's my two idiots."
Yeah, probably. I wish I'd have known what she's coming in on.
Well, if she wanted us to know, she would have told us. Maybe she'll enjoy this.
I do love staying out of the fucking loop. And she lights another smoke.
Did we get my drugs? Because we promised the day after we got high together that she was going to take me out and get some drugs.
Sure.
She wanted mellow thistle.
Yeah, but that would have cost you about 20 gold.
Oh my god.
So
expensive.
Yeah.
Okay, I only had 50 gold when that vendor was like, "Give me 1,000.
Okay.
Okay. How much mellow thistle do I have, though?
5 doses.
Jesus. Okay. Right, now we're waiting.
Now you're waiting. Roll me a perception.
Natural 20. 2 in a row.
Coming from over the shoulder of Lilith, you are, well, you're not taken by surprise as she steps onto the docks, but Lilith has no idea that she's there. I'm going to place you on the map here and then move you over. As she is making her way, you see that she is moving with purpose. She's not really in disguise. She's kind of openly just walking up to you. And you see now, with that natural 20 for a total of 25, there are individuals moving through the crowd at the same rate that she is, but they're not very close to her. And as she walks up to you,
I would have nudged Lilith ahead of time so she wasn't startled.
Lilith is still a little bit, you see her tense up a little bit. And as the master approaches the two of you, she says, "Well, I'm glad to see that both of you decided to dress up to meet me today."
Of course.
And Lilith says, "Yeah, of course." Just like trying to dodge.
Don some of those graces.
Yeah. The master says, "I've been looking forward to this for a while. I've been here before, but it's been a long time. The two of you are going to show me around."
Any particular interests?
"I don't need to see the town." "You are the sharp one here, aren't you?"
Can I roll an insight check on what the fuck she means?
"Sure. Go ahead."
Guess I'm not the sharp one. Lorna is. Oh, terrible.
If she doesn't mean the town, she probably means the academy.
Right. Of course.
"Well, lead the way."
Lorna does. And she had been kind of on this high horse about not being worried or intimidated because she found things that were more scary than the master. But with this woman right in front of her, she has been immediately humbled. She's trying not to hunch over just by the sheer pressure of this woman's presence. And keep this kind of dignified grace that she was trained to have.
Do you think this is hard for her to do?
I don't think it's easy. I think it does take effort.
Do you think it's a save-worthy moment, or do you think she can just manage it?
I think it would be a save-worthy moment.
Okay, roll me a wisdom
I think it's
save.
because she had this undeserved hubris.
Mm-hmm. Roll wisdom
So
save.
you said a wisdom save. Okay. It's a 12.
As you are walking, you hear from behind you, "Miss Halloweth, where did those courtly graces of yours go?
I'm sure I'll find them. I dropped them somewhere.
You almost look frightened."
Well, that just means I have to work harder, right?
"I should say so. What would Fion think?"
Have you heard from her recently?
"Of course."
Is she doing well?
"Do you want me to lie to you?
No?
Then maybe it's best I don't answer."
Okay.
"And as for you, Lilith," you see, like, Lilith, who was very pointedly looking straight forward. And the master is, like, behind both of you, right in between the two of you. Lilith says, "Yeah. I have word of your family. Well, some things may be better left unsaid, but the Noish family may have just come under some unwelcome scrutiny. It's a good thing you're all the way over here."
Insight check Lilith to see how she's taking this.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just rolling ball sack. 11.
Lilith's hard to read.
Mm-hmm. I was trying to perceive if she was happy or sad or...
She's tense.
Right. Of course, so am I.
Yeah. As the three of you make your way through Ferrum, things in Ceres have been interesting lately. Many gods milling about many different places looking for all sorts of people. No one knows who is funding them, But they'll not find anything so long as, well, money keeps moving into the right pockets. Meanwhile, I happen to have 2 accomplices across the ocean, learning what they can to become useful, because they certainly weren't when I sent them out here. I'm hoping to be a little bit impressed with the progress. What do you 2 think? Will I be impressed?
I am certain you will be.
Roll me a persuasion or deception. That's up to you.
My deception is better, but I think she actually believes it.
Okay.
Persuasion. Oh, come on, Lorna! Damn it. Another 11.
Man,
That's
the
3
dice
11
are
in a
just...
row. Yeah, they're
eating you
telling me to go
alive.
fuck myself because I was like, oh, Master who?
The master says, well, we shall certainly see, won't we?
I actually have someone I want to introduce you to.
Do you? Is now the time?
He's here already.
I am not interested in your romantic efforts, Lorna.
No.
And she'll say, Requiem? Can you lift your little head up and say hello?
Requiem, who is like underneath your jerkin as a snake belt, suddenly his head passes through the edge of the jerkin, and a snake head that is made of ghost appears. And in your head you hear, hello, woman who frightens my friend.
He says hello.
Huh. That is interesting.
I found him in the Shadowfell.
And what is he to you?
He's my familiar. My
Ah.
soul connection.
She kneels down and kind of gets real close to Requiem and like strokes at the underneath of the snake's head neck. And her
And I tell
fingertips
Requiem, be nice.
it seems as though her fingertips do connect with Requiem's ghost form. Or maybe it's just a good soliloquy that they do. And she says, how sweet. Your soul is bound to one of the dead.
Ironic.
Fitting, I think. For those of us who have the whole story. And she stands up. And what about you, still playing with knives? She says to Lilith. And Lilith says, I'm good at playing with knives. And she doesn't say anything else.
I'm Prester, I think.
We shall see. Go ahead and roll it.
I know I'm doing real
You're going to
bad,
have
but
to roll better than an 11.
fuck me.
You don't know. She's hard to read.
Okay. I'm sweating.
As you make your way to the Merry-Guard, you approach its front gates, and before you do, the master stops, holds up her hand, and you see that she just holds up 2 fingers, and then closes her thumb, and then closes her fist. Roll me a perception.
Come on, time to turn this around. Yes. Sheer force of will.
The 24.
Uh-huh.
Hold on. One individual from the crowd you see suddenly blink out of existence. You just don't see them anymore.
It does not acknowledge that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's good to know.
Well, here we are. This is the, well, so storied castle of the Merry-Guard Academy. Show me around.
For decorum's sake, shh. Is there something we should refer to you as?
Hail.
Hail. Okay.
And she'll look at Lilith for a moment of solidarity.
Lilith just says, "Hail." And then as you begin to head toward the door, and she says, "Don't forget, as in, hail the master."
Impossible to forget.
Good. We shall keep that skin on your backs. In you go.
Go in!
Okay. As you head into the Maryguard Academy, Persh looks up, sees, you and Lilith re-enter, and then sees her enter, and Persh says, "Welcome to the Maryguard Academy. How can I help you?" And she looks to you two, and she says, "I am merely here for a tour. For my friends here want to show me around." Persh looks at her, and then looks at the two of you.
And we're just sweating bullets.
Uh-huh. Right. Make sure everything stays as it was, and enjoy your time. The master says, "Well, of course. I wouldn't dare besmirch the reputations of my friends here. After all, they are just here to show me around." Persh, raises an eyebrow at you, because you are clearly just nervous as all hell.
Lorna has a pretty warm skin tone, but she looks pretty pale right now.
Noted. And he looks down at his desk. Roll me another perception check.
Okay, I'm getting a little bit better.
Don't worry about it.
Cool. That does the opposite.
Uh-huh.
But, yeah.
But the master standing behind you says, "Right. Lilith, why don't we start with where you train?" And Lilith nods slowly and begins leading the way to the fighter classroom. The fighter classroom on the day off is, well, it's still a classroom, and Illarad is still in there. But it's much more chill than it was during the week. Illarad is not out in front yelling at anybody. You see he's kind of seated lengthwise on one of the benches, and he has a cup of tea in his hands that he's sipping. And as you enter, he looks up and he says, "Hello there! How are you all doing today on my day off?" And Lilith says, "Hey, sorry, sir. A friend of mine wanted to see the training room." And Lillarad kind of rights himself on the bench and looks at you and the master, and he says, "Well, any friend of Lilith is welcome to take a look around. Are you considering signing up?" And the master says, "I might be. This certainly looks like an interesting place one can practice to play with knives. Though from you, I imagine one wouldn't be able to learn anything for distraction to look at you always." And Illarad, "Oh, well, you know how to pick them. But it is against school policy to fraternize with the students." "Well, then I guess I'm not signing up."
Fuck. She's got game.
I see. Maybe not. Maybe I see you later.
Wow.
The master just grins. "So tell me, Lilith, what have you been working on? Better yet, why don't you show me?"
Ooh.
And Lilith looks at the master and says, "Oh, okay.
On who?
Like on Illarad, or?" She says, "No.
Oh, God, please.
Hit me with your best shot." Lilith looks at you. "Okay. Sure. Right." And she puts out the cigarette that she had been kind of cupping in her palm to keep a little discreet, and she draws her short swords. And you see the master looks completely unthreatened. But you do see the master kind of tips 1 foot back into a ready stance. The sort of thing you might expect someone to take when they think they're going to get hit by something. And
What's she dressed in? Like, does she have weapons on her? Is she wearing armor? Is she wearing plain clothes?
so, according to the art, she's wearing black with lots of belts. You do see that on her hip is a rapier. She's not drawn it.
Mm-hmm.
She kind of has her hands open out to the side, almost as if showing a, what have you got? Sort of posture.
Show me what you got.
Lilith will surge toward the master in an attempt to use Battlemaster tactics and trip her. However, Lilith is only level 1.
Baby.
She's doing her best. I will roll to see how Lilith does here. Okay.
Put on her ass is what she's gonna get.
Lilith surges toward the master. And what's your passive perception?
15.
It looks as though Lilith thrusts her blades into the master's body. And as the swords clash into her body, the body almost spills away as if it's made of smoke.
Ugh.
And as it does, Lilith is like almost lost her balance, and the master is standing behind her. A little bit too obvious, darling. And Lilith rights herself. Okay. And Lilith will basically whip around and hurl the short sword, the 10 feet to the master. Except it looked like the throw was good. It looked like Lilith threw it perfectly accurately, like it was going to hit the master in the chest. But it doesn't. You see the short sword go right over the shoulder of the master, and the master doesn't even move. Oh, am I in your head? So close. You can do better. And Lilith, who is flustered, she switches the short sword to her other hand and then draws a dagger. In each of these engagements, you've seen the master's not taking a turn. She's giving up her turn to see what Lilith does. Lilith surges forward, and this time, right before getting to the master, she stops and suddenly thrusts forward with her foot in an attempt to try and feint. She's not skilled enough to do a proper feint attack, but she understands the principle. And as she tries, her foot doesn't even hit the master's leg. It looks like it's going to, but then it's as if she wasn't there all along. And Lilith says, I don't understand. And the master says, well, that's why you're here. Not a bad start, though. However, you did almost hit me. So, you watch as the master just pulls the rapier out of her belt and surges forward and slams Lilith in the face with the hilt of the rapier. And Lilith, completely caught unawares, you hear her go, "Ugh!" and she falls flat on her back. Her face is bleeding. That is how you hit someone. Lilith is
Has
unconscious.
also been watching? Oh my god! Has Lilith been watching this whole thing?
Yeah. As Lilith falls unconscious, Illerad says, am I missing something? As he runs over, he reaches into a belt pouch and draws a healing potion. And you see that Lilith's nose and the bone underneath her eyes is completely shattered.
Oh my god.
The master absolutely destroyed Lilith's face. The healing potion goes into Lilith's mouth as Illarad tries to hold the bones where they should be, and he looks up and says, "May I ask you not to injure my students? I do not think a drink is appropriate after this." And the master says, "A shame. Maybe next time."
Lorna looks like she's gonna piss her pants.
Lilith opens her eyes, and she spits just a mouthful of blood onto the ground. The healing potion does heal her the full 10.
Does her face look okay?
So
Or
the healing
is it
the bones
fucked?
set. The bones set in the proper way, but her eyes and it's just a big bruise. All of it's just black and blue. And Lilith just is coughing. The master turns to Lilith and says, "You are doing well enough for a month. For now, you stay here and feel better. Lorna, time to show me what you've learned.
Mm-hmm.
To your classroom?"
Of course. So we're leaving Lilith.
The master shows no interest in assisting Lilith to her feet and begins to head towards the door.
Lorna is gonna try to convey as much sympathy as she can to Lilith.
You can see Lilith's eyes are like watering, her face is bruised, and Illarad is next to her saying, "I don't really understand what sort of friend you have. Why don't you just sit down? You are likely concussed." And Lilith, you're not sure if the eyes are watering or if it's tears of frustration or there's more going on than you can immediately tell. But she doesn't look at you. She's looking at her feet as she's seated. So?
I think as she passes Lilith, she'll say lowly, quietly, in Infernal, "Remember, I'm with you."
Roll me a persuasion check. Or a deception.
I'm not deceiving her.
Okay,
Persuasion.
roll persuasion.
God. 14.
Okay. Noted. As you are following the master out of the fighter's classroom, you hear in your mind, "Oh, well, this doesn't sound like a fun encounter at all, does it?"
I don't know if fun is the right word. Maybe enlightening.
Well, I am here to help if you need it.
You are?
Yes, I am bound to you, after all. Have you got any other ideas as to how we can get out of this in one piece?
Stand by. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
It is nice to know you're there, though.
I literally cannot be anywhere else.
Yep. Yes. Can you just let this be nice?
No.
Okay. As they're heading up to the wizard's tower, Lorna will say quietly, he can read minds, so.
That will prove no real issue, I don't think. But thank you for the warning.
Of course.
Tell me, what do you think of this dragon?
He's very insightful, very intelligent, maybe a little puffed up.
A dragon? Puffed up?
Yeah. Well, he's not infallible, at the very least.
Well, none of us are we?
I wonder, she says as she looks the master over.
I make mistakes too. Just not in front of you.
I hope to learn that skill myself someday.
Are you buttering me up?
I believe what I'm saying, but if I get the benefit of buttering you up, I would not be upset about it.
It feels like a poor attempt at flattery. You should perhaps practice.
I'll add that to the list of things I need to learn.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe what I'm saying.
You are unusual, Lorna Halloweth. I'm glad to have a moment with you by ourselves, where it is not a dream. Before we enter this classroom, your father is back out on the search.
How recently?
As of 2 days ago, I received the message by Sending Stone. My own spy network is keeping tabs on him. So far, it has not been too successful. But from what I understand, here, with the Merigard Academy, they are able to provide amnesty to all who come. You are going to use it. Now, your father is searching for Dahlia Cross.
Mm-hmm.
That name is not one you should ever speak to anyone here.
I understand.
2 weeks hence from now, there is going to be a dead drop. Beneath the southern docks, the 4th pier, you will find a log floating in the water. You will look inside it. You will gather the dead drop, and you will follow its instructions.
Of course.
I need to make myself clear. You will follow these instructions no matter what effect they may have on your training here at the Academy. Do you understand?
I do. To clarify, any repercussions? Except if there are any repercussions, I accept them.
I see.
That's what I mean.
Good. I've invested quite a bit in you, Miss Halloweth.
I know.
Right. Show me your classroom.
She opens the door.
As you enter Tabernac's classroom, it is just as empty as it was last weekend, though you can hear Tabernac having a conversation. He's talking to someone. It is not too loud. You can't quite piece together what he's saying from here. But as you enter and you are looking around the bookshelves and everything, beside you, the master says, "Well, this is impressive.
Mm-hmm. Thought so too.
I suppose I should have expected this from a dragon's lair."
Don't. I wouldn't recommend taking anything.
Do I look like a common thief?
Not even a little bit.
Good. Before you show me your instructor, it sounds as though he's busy. Why don't you instead show me what you've been working on? Something you've accomplished.
Oh, okay. I've made my own spell.
Hmm?
I'm sure you would happily test it. I have to bleed,
We can make that happen.
but it can't put me down into the ground like you did to Lilith, or I mean, I wouldn't be able to do it. I maybe hold back a little bit.
Are you expecting me to strike you?
It needs to be done for the spell. It's a retaliatory spell that
Then-
requires my blood.
Wouldn't it be better if you weren't prepared?
That's entirely up to you.
I think that'd be best.
I understand.
You see she kind of smiles at you. And she says, "You don't have to ask for pain. Pain comes when we make mistakes. Such as Lilith did."
You were surprisingly good in that fight with her.
That was surprising to you.
Well, I guess I just never thought what your skill set might be.
I wouldn't have shown you. I still haven't shown you.
I know you could walk through dreams.
Mm-hmm. What else can I do, Lorna?
You can communicate across great distances.
Mm-hmm. But these are things you could have pieced together just as a smart person might. One in charge of spies. I didn't have to show you that. Think. What have I shown you?
Can Lorna make a check that pen is not smart enough?
Yeah, go ahead and roll an Arcana check.
Thanks, because oof. Okay. Oh, thank God. 23.
With a 23, the abilities the Master has shown you are not the sort of things a mortal would gain on their own. Bending smoke, those sorts of things.
Lorna would kind of tilt her head and say, "You've made a pact."
You see, she smiles very wide, and she says, "You have impressed me."
I've learned about pacts recently from the warlock instructor.
I bet you have. Now the question I have for you is, do you have any clue who my pact is with?
Can Lorna try to piece together some context clues? Like what type? Like a fiend? Obviously, it's not a fae.
You could try. Roll an Arcana, but the DC's super high.
Okay, I'll fucking try. 17.
No, you don't know.
I think Lorna.
Not from what she's shown you.
I think Lorna would just say, if I had to wager on my limited knowledge of pacts and patrons, I would say maybe a fiend.
No. They ask too much.
They
And
do.
I'm not one to give freely, am I?
No.
But it was a good try.
You want me to try again later?
No.
Okay.
The Master kind of smirks. Still. I've heard worse guesses. What about you? You have a focus of magic, and I'd like to know what it is. Aside from... And before she says retaliatory, the rapier slash right across from your chin up to your ear.
She messed up my pretty face?
You take 8 points of slashing damage.
Ouch. That's my temp though, thank God. Wait, do I still have? I don't have that anymore.
You had 2.
I didn't have any because did I have breakfast?
You said you'd... No, I guess not.
No, I didn't have any temp, and it's been a week since I had that 7. So yeah, I take the full 8. I'm at half health. But she will do Lorna's burning blood. Why did it roll so many times? Well, it's a 15 dexterity save. Why did it roll so many times?
It's okay.
Hold
We'll
on.
sort it out.
If the caster instead, it's 3d6. So it was
Why did it do 2d6?
because if I focus it on a cone,
yes,
it's
yes.
2d6. But so it's the 12 if she fails, which she won't. The DC 16
She literally
save.
rolled a natural 20.
Oh my God.
So...
But she still takes half?
No, she doesn't.
Aw.
But as the
Also
blood...
fire damage and she's a tiefling, so yeah.
As the blood surges out toward her in a flame, again, you watch as the fire licks over her form, and then it's as if, now that you're right there and you're looking at her, it's like her whole body is ashen. And then she's actually 2 feet behind it as the ash blows away in a cloud of smoke. That is a useful spell.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you think so. It came to me when I was stabbed for the first time, and she's just holding her face where the cut is.
Oh, sweet thing. And she licks her finger and runs it along the cut. You receive 1 hit point of healing, and it does stop
thanks.
the bleeding.
But it does not fix the damage.
Nope, there's a scar there.
She scarred my face!
Mm-hmm.
My pretty face! I have to update my reference art. Oh no!
It is perfect line from the middle of your chin all the way up to your ear.
Dude, that's so cool.
And she says, I couldn't have a visit without leaving a mark, now could I?
As if you hadn't already.
You'll be fine.
I don't know, this is kind of my trade. She like looks at her bloody hand, but it's no longer bleeding.
It will provide you character, conversation piece.
It's just one more thing that makes me different from her, I suppose.
Exactly. So,
Tabernacle is gonna be so confused.
It is. The cut is red and angry, but it is not.
Like it's
bleeding.
had a couple days to heal, but it's
basically
it's new, obviously.
Now, shall we meet your instructor?
Of course.
You head down the stairs of the balcony, down towards Tabernacle, and you can see that Tabernacle is having a conversation with another student. Roll me a d10.
Oh boy.
Let's see who it is.
10.
Oh, okay. You see, the kind of, hold on a second. I need to see if I can pull this up real quick.
Excited.
Oh, this is interesting. I didn't expect you to roll this, but you did. You see a towering half-orc with long black hair leaning on one of the couches and talking with Tabernacle. This half-orc looks as though she's wearing little more than furred hides to make armor.
Nice.
And as she's talking to Tabernacle, Tabernacle looks up at you and says, "Oh, well, excuse me a moment. Lorna, was there something else?" And he sees the master behind you.
I wanted to introduce you to someone.
Ah, very well. Tame, if you wouldn't mind. Just a moment. And the half-orc, who is nearly 7 feet tall,
Oof.
turns and looks at you. She kind of like chews on one tusk into her lip, and she says, "Yeah, all right." And she backs up. As you and the master descend the stairs, the master behind you says, "Well, you look like someone who could be a lot of fun," she says to the half-orc.
Jesus.
And the half-orc says, "Yeah, I can be. It depends on who's asking." And Tabernacle says, "Not in my classroom, please. I am Tabernacle, the story keeper. And you are?" And the master behind you says, "It is a pleasure to meet someone with proper manners around here. You may call me Hale, Northair.
North there. Does that sound like? Have I ever heard that before? Does that ring any bells? Does it just sound like bullshit that she's made up?
Roll me a history check.
Hmm. Come on, Lorna, you are just hot garbage tonight.
You have no idea. You've never
Okay.
heard that name, but
Northair.
it doesn't mean it's not a real name.
Mm-hmm.
And Tabernacle looks at you and says, "Oh, Northair. And may I ask, Lorna, how you came acquainted?"
I was introduced by an old friend.
I'm sure you were. Well, may I ask what brings you to the Marigot Academy? And the master behind you says, "Oh, well, Lorna's an old friend of mine, and I really wanted to see just how she was doing. One might say I have a vested interest." And Tabernacle looks at you, and he's making an insight check. How are you doing?
I have a fresh flash across my face, and I'm definitely more. I'm at half health, so just a little over half health. So she's not in her peak physical condition, and she's definitely hasn't recovered from looking more pale than usual. But I think she really is trying, after so many stumbles, to keep her decorum. She is trying to keep, calm, collected, back straight.
Well, it is convenient that you are here, Lorna. Please, for the moment, we must talk chop. Tame, here's one of the barbarian students. I have seen her in action, and as someone who is, well, familiar with magics, I feel that Tame would be an appropriate individual to join you in your next free agency.
All right. You know what it is already.
Yes, but I'm not going to tell you, as we are still ironing out the details. The client is perspicacious.
Okay. When can I expect to know?
When it's no longer the weekend, Lorna, as
Right, it's Saturday.
you keep ignoring my orders.
I
Last
like-
weekend, you kept showing up in here every day, trying to get more and more information out of my shelves when I insisted that you go drink or be irresponsible. And much the same for this weekend.
I'm sorry to
Recreation
disappoint
is
you.
vital.
She looks chastised, but she does smile a little bit. And she'll look at Tame and say,
I look forward to working with you.
Me too.
does she look like... or is she
Roll
sizing
me
me
an
up?
insight. Roll me an insight check.
Right. Come on! Can I have inspiration just so I can re-roll that?
I'm not gonna give you an inspiration just to
Fair!
reroll that. Tame's not a hard person to read. I will
Okay.
roll. Tame is looking at you in much the way that you've seen Sagona look at a steak.
Oh. I think Lorna would... Oh, I think before she even realizes that Tabernac is in the room, she'd be like, I could probably use that to my advantage.
Tabernac raises an eyebrow. And in your mind you hear, "Please stay focused, or I will need to find another student to work with you.
Of course. Entirely professional during working hours. Of
I
course.
understand most of you mortals are around the age that hormones just run rampant, and it can be extremely irritating for those designing these parties to deal with.
Tabernac, I get it. It feels like you're my father scolding me, please.
Well, maybe I need to act like one sometimes. Behave yourself."
Of course.
Out
I
loud,
think her
Tabernacle
face,
says.
she just is flushed and
Out
flustered.
loud, Tabernacle says, "Well, Miss Hale, it is a pleasure to see you. I hope this environment has proven itself to be effective and efficient in how we are trading your vested interest." And the master says, "Oh, so far this is truly magnificent. I am excited to see what you will be capable of." Well, I think finding some quarters is best for me. So, do you have any recommendations as to a place to stay? She's looking at you.
Me or Tabernacle?
She's looking at you.
Do I know if the Maryguard takes a?
If it has rooms?
Yeah.
It does.
Do I also know if there's any high-end establishment? First of all, I know
The
I haven't
Maryguard
probably
is
gone there.
The Maryguard is basically the nicest place. There are other places that you can drink and eat, but the Maryguard's really the best one in town. There's
So-
not really a luxury place.
Right. Lorna would look at her and say, "Well, you can always stay at the Maryguard, where it's your duty to be merry." I believe is what the.
Behind you, you hear Tame say, "I know that waiter. He's an idiot."
I think he actually likes his job. But that's beside the point. It's probably the nicest place you'll be able to stay in town.
The Maryguard. A clever play on words. All right, I can respect a pun. Yes, I will head there. And I expect to see you soon.
Of course.
Tomorrow, I'm going to drink tonight. So, I'll see you tomorrow.
Of course.
To the rest of you, I bid you farewell. And the master climbs the stairs, leaving you kind of standing there with a bleeding face.
My face isn't bleeding anymore, but
no, but it's clearly a fresh cut. And
it's true. I have a fresh cut, and I have. There's probably blood on my shirt.
Yes. So
That
Tabernacle
didn't get
will
cleaned
look
up.
at you and say, once the door audibly closes, Tabernacle says, "So that was interesting. However, there's still one of their entities waiting in this room, so if you don't mind..." And then one of the individuals that you saw outside, it's as if he's forcibly made visible again, and he's like halfway up the stairs. You see it is this kind of stout-looking human. He's wearing what looks like traveling clothes, but there's clearly armor on underneath it, and he says, "Oh, right, sorry."
Bruh.
And he just kind of sheepishly makes his way up the stairs.
Lorna just blinks like an owl.
"All the way out the door, please." "Right, sorry." And you hear the door. Like, you heard the door open and close, but it's clear.
He just did that to make it sound like he left. Oh,
Yes.
fuck. That's so funny.
Tabernacle looks over at Tame, and then at you, and he says, "Now, what was that really about, Lorna?"
She was being honest when she said that I was her investment.
Is she what we might call a sponsor?
That's the perfect way of putting it.
I see.
I didn't know about the secret person, I'm sorry.
I know. I could tell. But one does not enter my lair and assume I don't know about them. Tame. And Tame looks to Tabernacle. "I have an assignment for you, as we've agreed upon." Tame looks at you, kind of rolls her shoulders, and says, "All right, you're my Huckleberry. Where are we going?"
I'm your what?
"Tame here is going to guard you. As part of a free agency of my own device, a barbarian assigned as a bodyguard. Tame here wishes to become an ancestral protector, and as such, guarding a fellow student is perfect.
Oh. You are the client.
Mm-hmm.
All right. She'll look at team. I appreciate it. How long are you staying with me?
Today? Tomorrow? Till the job's done, I guess.
Once the job done, she looks at Tabernac.
I suspect once your advisor, or rather your sponsor, has left.
Is this a 24/7?
If you want it to be.
Can I insight check that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Better.
It looks like a joke, but one that could be serious.
I think, pretending she is oblivious to that, she'll be like, well, I don't have any roommates.
Lorna.
That was just a statement.
You are not so hard to see through as you think.
Changing the subject completely, she'll say, you don't think my sponsor would mind?
I don't care. This is Merigard business, and should your sponsor raise a complaint, well, I'll see to it. You are my responsibility as a student of the Merigard Academy. None. Well, not none. If Rayla the Lasting showed up, I'd probably let you go. But in the meantime, no hopped-up criminal mind will manage my students in front of me.
I think Lorna would be very deeply touched, and her eyes would mist a little bit, but she would refrain from being emotional and say, I understand.
Mm-hmm. Now, why don't the two of you go find something to do that is not in my classroom?
Right, no working on the weekends.
Off you go.
She'll look at Tame and be like, well, the Merigard is out of the question, but do you know a different place?
The Shipstill's pretty good.
I've been there once.
Yeah, let's hit that place.
Okay. Yeah, I could use a drink. My face hurts.
Yeah, you look fucked up. What happened to you?
I was testing a spell.
On
Sort
yourself?
Sort of. I need to bleed for it to work, so,
That's my kind of spell.
maybe I'll show you.
Yeah, I guess
don't
we
hit-
could make a matching one.
No, please don't hit me in the face.
Alright, let's get moving. And as you and Tame head out of Tabernac's classroom, that is where we're going to stop tonight's session.
Tabernac! So nice! I love him! It's the father figure that I deserve.
Thank you all for watching this session of From Nothing, Lorna's story. We'll see you all next week.
You put me through the ringer emotionally.
That is the plan.